Hello everyone, Adrienne here. So today we are going to be discussing the early 19th century poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. Now, if the name Shelley does strike a chord of familiarity with you, that is because Percy Bysshe Shelley is the husband of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. So their lives, as far as their literary passions are concerned, are very much intertwined. And it's really fascinating to see the result of that intertwining, both in Percy's poetry as well as Mary Shelley's work in literature and storytelling. So when it comes to Percy Shelley's relationship with Mary Shelley, they started out, well, she started out kind of as the other woman. He was already married to his wife named Harriet, and shortly after he and Mary had run away to Switzerland together, she had presumably committed suicide. Shit happens. And so when they ran away to Switzerland together, they joined Lord Byron, the very famous Lord Byron, as well as his personal physician Polidori, and they were also accompanied by Mary's stepsister Claire Clermont. So all of them had a really good time in Lord Byron's villa in Switzerland, and one stormy night in 1816 they all challenged each other to come up with the most frightening ghost story. And the result of it, of course, is Frankenstein. And of course, with Percy Shelley, his result was the modern Prometheus, or Promethean Flame. And he also was famous for writing the Queen Mab sequence, which pretty intense. He really put a lot of thought and work into it. Now, when it comes to Percy Shelley's work, it borders between romantic and melancholy, and it was part of this rebellious movement in the early 19th century that took part in going back to romanticism and idealism as opposed to stark realism. That was a thing back then. So part of the Regency era, which Percy Shelley was a part of, really focused on rebelling against that stark, this is how it is kind of thing, and more toward that idealistic romantic sort of quality and tendency. So I will let Percy Shelley's work speak for itself. However, I will not be reading them myself, because I fucking hate the sound of my own speaking voice, as every singer does. And I will leave that to the work of my dear friend Brian Mansi, who is a very talented voice actor. So the first poem that he is going to be reciting to you is Love's Philosophy, which was one of the first poems, actually, I do believe it was the first poem by Percy Shelley that I ever read, and I just fell in love with it because it was just dripping with romantic melancholy, and he creates such rich imagery with how he's describing his passion, and oh my god, it was just to die for. I lost my mind when I was 11 years old and I read that for the first time. Oh man. Lost it. I lost my mind. Another thing too, you guys might recognize this particular poem from the movie In and Out. It was in the very beginning of the movie. I love that movie, it's so damn funny. Anyway, so here is Love's Philosophy by Percy Shelley.
The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine. In one spirit meet and mingle, why not I with thine? See the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What is all this sweet work worth, if thou kiss not me?
And now the second one that Brian is going to be reciting for you guys is called Stanzas. Not exactly a really exciting or creative title for it, but it's kind of hard to put it into a description. It really is. So when you listen to it, you will think of all of the kind of dwelling nightly terrors that lurk out in the nocturnal landscape, and it's really melancholy and gorgeous. It's just, oh man, you'll see for yourself. Here is Stanzas.
Away! The moor is dark beneath the moon. Rapid clouds have drunk the last pale beam of even. Away! The gathering winds will call the darkness soon, and profoundest midnight shroud the serene lights of heaven. Pause not, the time is past, every voice cries, away! Tempt not with one last tear thy friend's ungentle mood. Thy lover's eye, so glazed and cold, dares not entreat thy stay. Duty and dereliction guide thee back to solitude. Away, away! To thy sad and silent home, pour bitter tears on its desolated hearth. Watch the dim shades as like ghosts they go and come, and complicate strange webs of melancholy mirth. The leaves of wasted autumn woods shall float around thine head. The blooms of dewy spring shall gleam beneath thy feet. But thy soul, or this world, must fade in the frost that binds the dead, ere midnight's frown and morning's smile, ere thou and peace may meet. The cloud shadows of midnight possess their own repose, for the weary winds are silent, or the moon is in the deep. Some respite to its turbulence, unresting ocean knows. Whatever moves, or toils, or grieves, hath its appointed sleep. Thou in the grave shalt rest yet, till the phantoms flee, which that house and heath and garden made dear to thee erewhile. Thy remembrance and repentance and deep musings are not free from the music of two voices and the light of one sweet smile.
So, of course, along with Lord Byron, Percy Shelley was also a really big influencer on future poets like Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Baudelaire and whatnot. And you can really see that in Poe's childhood, he really did focus on these literary figures as far as aesthetic and focus goes. So, if there wasn't a Percy Shelley and if there wasn't a Lord Byron, there probably wouldn't have been a Poe, but he was still brilliant. He was still very brilliant. So the 19th century, especially the first half of the 19th century, is really a flowering point as far as Gothic literature is concerned, with poetry, with, you know, storytelling, short stories, and everything was really starting to flourish and come into focus, and it's really beautiful to see that taking place throughout the decades. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video on Percy Shelley, and go ahead and check out my friend Brian Mansi. He is on Instagram as well as SoundCloud, and he is also on YouTube. He is an incredibly talented voice actor. I first found him when I was playing an Amnesia custom story called Amnesia Helena, and he was one of the characters in there, and I was just so impressed by his performance in there that I just had to look him up. I added him on Facebook, and we've been friends for about a year now. So he is really awesome. He's also a model, but he also narrates this spooky serial on SoundCloud, which you can listen to. I will leave all of Brian Mansi's links down in the description below so you can check him out. He really deserves it. He is super talented, as you guys can plainly see, and he did an amazing job helping me out today. And also, I will be leaving this particular edition of Percy Shelley's major works down in the description below as well, so you guys can check it out for yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought maybe it was time to give Percy Shelley a shout out because he's one of my favorites since I was a preteen. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye!